Yeah, first things first, many thanks for your time. It's to be honest, it's really a great pleasure to be able to talk to you. I mean,
My pleasure.
for me, having been born in a family with a dad, watching Formula One for almost half a decade now, having grown up with Ferrari all around, it's really a pleasure and to talk with you, and I'm really, really proud of it. So yeah, generally speaking, I have some questions, but the first I would like to ask you is how is it to work in like the tire industry? Because from us, from the outside, it looks what a closed domain, like a closed field with Pirelli, Michelin, and then some other big brands. But yeah, it's like what are closed and yeah.
You know, close. We have many brands and many tire manufacturers. Obviously, our area is quite specific. Our market is quite specific. Our core business is tires. In the past, Pirelli was producing also other stuff, but then our management decided to focus on high performance tires and tires for prestige cars, premium cars, and obviously motorsport. It's a natural declination, I would say, to develop technology and to have an open laboratory where we can develop know-how, and therefore we are heavily involved in motorsport. So I joined Pirelli many years ago, and I was not involved in motorsport. I was doing something completely different. I was a test driver at the beginning and then a designer for road cars. But my dream was to be involved in motorsport. I used to be a go-kart driver when I was very, very young. And so my passion is about motorsport, and I had the opportunity to be involved in that thanks to Pirelli and our big activity in this environment.
Do you have any advice? Like for me, for instance, as I mentioned, I was born in a family really interested in Formula One. My father is a mechanic and has been a mechanic for almost all his life, since he's 17 years old or so. And so yeah, I was born with cars all around, and you know, like right now I'm finishing my studies and I'm beginning to think about what I could do afterwards. And of course, like motorsports is one of the dreams, but do you have any advices how to fulfill it? Or?
Yeah, first of all, to work in this environment, you need to be passionate. As you were saying, you are passionate, and so you are desperately trying to find a way to work in motorsport. But
it's not easy when you live in Luxembourg. It's quite.
But you need to travel in any case. I live in Milan. It's probably easier for me, but reality is that I travel more than 200 days per year. So I have a home in Milan that I don't see very often. You need to get used to that. You need to be available to work during the weekend, during holidays. There is no timing when you are a track, especially, for example, in a normal race weekend on Friday in Formula One. We start very early, we finish very late. So it's not an 8 to 5 job. It's something different. You need to be in this mindset to do that. Second point is obviously it depends what you want to do in motorsport. If you are targeting to be involved in a technical side, so engineering mainly, or as a mechanical, as you said. Engineering, now there are many universities with dedicated mechanical engineers focus on motorsport, especially in UK. Obviously, English is a paramount. You have to speak English. This is more for Italian people, because in Italy it's still not very common to speak English. So the language we speak at track is obviously English. If you have in mind other type of job. It can be marketing, can be communication, or any other. You can be involved as well in motorsport. Usually, most of the people are attracted by Formula One, but it's difficult to start your career in Formula One. So in many cases, you have to accept that for a period of time, you should start with smaller championships, national championships, or maybe GT or rally or other kind of championship, and then step by step you can move to in the championship that it's the more attractive for you. I was talking about Formula One, but a lot of people maybe can work in WRC or in GT or in NASCAR, or there are many championships around the world. So you need to be patient. You need to climb the ladder step by step. Somebody is lucky because maybe we have some engineers that after university had the opportunity to start directly in Formula One. It doesn't happen very often, but this is what I think I have to suggest to young people or students that want to be involved in motorsport.
Yeah, so climb the ladder, respect the hierarchy, and let time do its things.
It's a you know what, it's a difficult environment because you think at motorsport like a big environment, but at the end of the day, when you are in this environment for many years, you always find the same people, moving from one team to another, moving from one activity to another. But now it's 10 years that I am mainly focused in Formula One, and I find people that were working with me 20 years ago in GT, or 10 years ago in Rally, or Ferrari Challenge, or Lamborghini Super Trofeo, or any other championship. So you have to understand that is not a big environment. So you need to, and it's difficult because it's very specific. You need to know rules. You need to know how it works. It's not just a matter of knowing the technical side of it. If you are a good engineer, for sure you have a high probability to success, but you need to give yourself the time to understand the business and to step by step going into the business.
Yeah, but the main thing which you mentioned sometimes is like it's mostly a domain for people doing engineering or or rather an engineering domain than for those who studied like what we call natural sciences.
It is an environment that is probably dominated by engineers. That is clear because they are the prominent figure, the people that you see the most in Formula One. But you have many other functions that are involved in Formula One. If you think that we have from catering to marketing to the hospitality, security, IT, obviously engineering, mechanic, but you have so many different functions, and the one team is made by all this. So it doesn't mean that if you're not an engineer, you have no possibility to enter into this world, but with a different role, of course. If you want to be involved in the technical side, we have engineers that are specialized on materials, for example. It's a very important area, and in the future it will be even more relevant because everybody is looking for new possibilities, new materials, lighter, more resistant. But if you don't think only at the teams and the team perspective, we have people that are highly specialized in designing circuits, for example, making the asphalt, or working in the sporting side of this world. what else? I mean, there are so many others that it's
Yeah.
difficult to list everything.
But yeah, let's focus a bit more on Formula One, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
For how long has Pirelli been part of this whole Formula One circus? Because for me, it looks like it was always Pirelli or Michelin.
We are the sole supplier since 2011. That was our first year back to Formula One. But Pirelli was in Formula One since the beginning, the very beginning. Actually, the first Formula One championship was won by Pirelli in 1950, I believe. It was a lot before I joined Pirelli, obviously. but we have been involved in different periods. And then in 1991, we decided to focus more on GT activities and World Rally Championship. But then after 20 years, there was the opportunity to come back to Formula One. Obviously, you have in mind other brands because, for example, in the 80s and 90s, I believe Goodyear was the supplier, and then we had Michelin, of course, Bridgestone, other suppliers.
Brand in the 50s.
Sorry?
There was even a Belgian brand in the 50s called Engelbert, which since has become Uniroyal.
Yeah, you're right. And so the biggest difference compared to the past, I believe, is that Formula One decided to be supplied by a single manufacturer from 2008, I believe. So the first 3 years were made by Bridgestone and then Pirelli since 2011. Because mainly for two reasons. One, to save cost, because in the past having what they call a tire war, so an open competition between tire manufacturers was obviously costing a lot of money. Each tire manufacturer involved had to develop tires every race, test the tires. We had teams with a specific test team dedicated to tire development. As you can imagine, costs were over the moon. That is why it was decided to reduce the cost and nominate a single tire manufacturer. The other point is that with this system, everybody has the same tire. So tires are no more a big differential in the performance of the car. It is still a differential because if you have somebody that is able to understand and use the tire in a better way, they have an advantage, of course. This is why most of the teams have a specific department of people and engineers that are analyzing tires behavior, tires data in order to understand how to use the tires in the best possible way. But this is the only differential because the product is the same for everybody. And from 2011, as I said, we are now 11 years that are in Formula One, and our contract is until 2024.
And do you plan to continue afterwards, or don't you still know? Don't you know?
It is a bit early now to take a decision for the future, because first of all, we have a big challenge in front of us next year with a new 18 inches tire. We are developing this new size. Is a big change for Formula One. Consider that Formula One is on 13 inches tires, I believe, since 30 years or something like that. So it's a long period. Next year we will have completely new cars with a different aero package, different tires, different brakes, and so we are really focused on this activity at the moment. The activity is going well. Drivers are quite happy with the performance of the new tires. And then I believe that in 2023, Formula One will launch a new tender for 2025 onwards, and we will see what we decide.
Actually, you said many things that are somehow linked to questions I had. Since we mentioned 18-inch rims right now, let's focus a bit more on that. In Formula 2, it's actually the second season you used 18 inches. Sorry. How important is that feedback from Formula 2 teams? Because obviously Formula 2 drivers are not as experienced as a Vettel or a Hamilton or even a Giovinazzi or whoever in Formula 1. So how useful is their feedback?
I believe that according to the feedback we collected from drivers, the Formula 2 tires are working quite well. We still have some degradation from these tires. It was requested by the promoter. The promoter in Formula 2 want to keep some degradation to make drivers' life a bit more difficult and to increase the show and overtaking. But I believe that for them it's really important to drive an 18-inch tire. It's more, I would say, a race tire because it's more precise, is more reactive, and the behavior is slightly different compared to 13 inches. So having drivers that are already used to it, it's probably an advantage when they jump into Formula 1. We had also very good feedback from Formula 1 drivers, as I was saying, because of these characteristics. Now we are in the process of developing new compounds because we agreed some characteristics on the new tires with less degradation, less overheating, a wider working range for compounds. So the first step was to develop a construction and a profile, freeze them, and then started we started to work on a new family of compounds with different characteristics. So you can understand how important it is to have chemical engineers or material engineers to develop this kind of materials. And the second part of our development that is currently in progress is this one. So coming back to Formula 2, sorry, we had also the opportunity to use these tires in a real race environment that is slightly different compared to our tire development tests. For example, at our test, we have only one car or two cars running on track, but never close to each other because we want clean runs. While when you are during the race weekend, you have cars that are following each other. So also the influence of the turbulence behind the car, and therefore how big is the loss in downforce is really important, because if you lose a lot of downforce, that is what is currently happening on the cars we are using now. When they follow each other, they lose up to 50% of the downforce. It means that you start sliding and you start overheating the surface of the tire. So what I want to say is that in a real race environment, you have some characteristics that are different compared to testing. And having the Formula 2 that had the possibility to run 2 seasons with 18 inches in advance to Formula 1, useful for us, even if it is a different car, different size, width of the tire, but we are collecting interesting feedback that we can use at a certain extent also for Formula 1.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned the wider range of tires you are developing. Yeah, actually, right now we only have the soft, the medium, and the hard compound tires. Yeah, what do you make of this? Because if you listen to the drivers, it's always like there are 1 or 2 compounds really working. There are 1 or 2 compounds which work really well, and there's one, most often the hard one, where they complain about it. So yeah, what do you make of this? And also, don't you miss the whole rainbow range we had a few years back?
You know, when you were talking about drivers complaining, I was smiling because, for example, you mentioned the hard compound. The hard compound, for example, in Monte Carlo and in Portimao, 2 of the last 3 races, it was almost not used during free practice, and then it became the compound for the race, because in the second stint of the race, most of the drivers decided to use the hard compound, and the hard compound was performing quite well. Many years ago, when we started, we had only 2 compounds per race. And then we, together with the FIA and the teams, we decided to consider three choices, three different compounds, hard, medium, and soft, to open up to different strategies and to open up to the possibility to have some teams focusing on a one-stop strategy, some teams on a two-stop strategy, and so to create some unpredictability and jeopardy in the classification and the choices. I have to say that it was working quite well, not on all the circuits, because we have to design in an ideal world, going to race on 23 different circuits means that we should design more than 60 different compounds, each one dedicated to one circuit. That is not possible, of course. So we have a range of 5 compounds. We select the 3 compounds out of these 5 that are more suitable for that specific circuit. We consider the layout, we consider the tarmac roughness, we consider weather condition expected, and we select 3 compounds. And then it can happen that you have one of the 3 compounds that is not perfect for that race, but it also depends on the, for example, weather condition. Sometimes you have Friday and Saturday are much colder than Sunday, and then Sunday is a lot warmer, and they have to use the hard compound that they didn't use before. In the past, we had 1 year in which we had the famous rainbow.
Yeah.
With we decided to homologate. We don't have a maximum number of compounds that we can homologate, so we can homologate 4, 5, 6, 7, doesn't matter. Now we have 5. I believe that 5 is a good compromise. But that year we had 7 compounds. We didn't have this system of hard, medium, soft, and so we had to find different colors and different names for all the compounds. And we had from super hard to hyper soft. A lot of different compounds, a lot of different tires, and a lot of different colors. For me, it was nice. It was nice because it was clear that each color was representing a specific compound. But I can also understand that for spectators that are not really into technical stuff, it was really difficult to understand and to remind if the pink is softer or harder than the purple, than the red or the yellow or whatever. So the system that we use now is a lot more clear for spectators. The white is always the hardest, the red is always the softest. Doesn't matter if it is a C1, C2, C3, whatever. We give the information to the people. So if you are a fan that is really interested in technical stuff, you know exactly that in Monaco we are using C3, C4, C5, in Silverstone C1, C2, C3, but the colors for people that are just normal spectators, not looking into technical details, is a lot easier.
How many tires do you use on a typical race weekend?
We bring roughly 1,800 tires because each car has 13 sets of slick, 4 sets of intermediate, but we have also an additional set in case of rain, so it's 5, and 3 sets of wets. So it is in total 21 per car. If you multiply by 20 cars plus obviously some spare tires that we have always in the trailer, is roughly 1,800.
What do you make of the tires which were used during a weekend?
After usage, the teams have to return all the tires. We collect them, and obviously the first step is to analyze the tires after usage. Then we send them back to UK. We have a technical center in Didcot. Didcot is a small town south of Oxford, and we recycle them as fuel for cement factories. So you know that if you burn the tire at a very high temperature, you create energy, but you don't create pollution. So at the moment, we are using this system since the beginning of our challenge in Formula One in 2011. But we are working also at new projects sustainability is really an important matter for us. We have a department that is looking after sustainability. We won many prizes as a company that is heavily involved in sustainability, from raw material to end of life of the tires. And so we are also exploring new ways to recycle tires for the future, also in an idea of circular economy. Not easy, but we are putting a lot of resources in that, and I'm sure, I'm confident in a small time we find even better solution than the current one.
Yeah, that is even more important, since Formula One is on the whole sustainability process with some more eco rule and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last thing maybe really related to tire degradation. Yeah, obviously, since you also manufacture normal tires for road cars. Yeah, they have to last as long as possible, but in Formula One you have to produce tire which don't last as long. So isn't that counterintuitive and counterproductive? And what do you make of it? Because yeah, it's like going against everything you stand for.
It was very difficult to explain at the beginning. Honestly, as you said, we have worked for more than 100 years, because our first race was in 1907, to reduce degradation, to have less wear, so to have a higher mileage, and so on and so on. And then when we decided to come back to Formula One, our first request from the promoter, at that time it was Bernie Eccleston, was, okay, I want tire with high degradation, with a shorter life, because I want action on track. I want more pit stops. I want overtaking on track. And a good way to do that is to have high degradation tires. We said, okay, it's not, I mean, we were working for the opposite. So it was not very easy to switch our mind and start working in a different direction. We achieved the target, because if you look at the 2011-2012 season, we had most of the races with 2 stops, 3 stops. In one case, we had also 4 stops. That is a bit too much. But we had a lot of action on track. We had a lot of overtaking. We were making some analysis on overtaking, and in 2011 compared to 2010, sorry, we had probably 3-4 times the number of overtaking per race.
Yeah,
but obviously
also due to the DRS, no?
DRS was part of the has part of the merit, but when you have a high degradation tire, and obviously you have one driver on old tires and one driver on fresh tires, the speed differential can be 1-2 seconds per lap, and so obviously you have more overtaking depending on the strategy. It was a bit of a nightmare for strategy engineers, but it was exactly what we have been asked to do, so we did it. Then drivers wanted to have a more, let's say, solid tires with less degradation, and we had to change our approach. But at the beginning, I believe that the most difficult part of the job was to explain to our customers that Formula One tires were designed with this in mind. Not that all our tires are high degradation. Even if you have a road car and you buy Pirelli tire, you are not going to run for 100 kilometers. Absolutely. It was requested to do that, and we did it. And it's a way to show that we can drive our development. So we can decide the targets and we can decide what to do. And not that all the tires produced by Pirelli are high degradation tires. Absolutely, it was not the case. But at the beginning was not easy. Now it's a lot more clear.
Considering that the tires are degrading as fast, isn't it also kind of counterproductive for you? Because if everything goes well, if a pilot manages his tires perfectly fine, like Hamilton usually does, all the credits goes to him. But if there's any problem with the tires, it's like, okay, Pirelli messed up. So what do you make of this? Because it looks like for you, you can't get any credits. You can just be criticized.
You know, irrespective of the level of degradation, it's a situation that we have in all the championships where we are the sole supplier. The winner is the winner and is happy, and then you have 19 drivers that are not happy, and obviously they are looking for any kind of reason why they were not performing at the level of the winner. Each driver, from number one to the last on the grid, they must have in mind that they want to win the race. It's a normal mindset for a driver, otherwise they are a loser. So it is clear that they are not happy when they don't win, but unfortunately we have only one winner and they have all the same tires. So there is very little we can do to make them happier.
Since road tires and Formula One tires are so different, and on the one hand, you have to do, like we said, you have to do those tires which last as long as possible. On the other hand, you have to do the ones very, very fastly degrading. How do you use, or do you use the data you collect in Formula One to produce or to increase the quality of your road tires?
There are a lot of areas in which we develop technology thanks to Formula One. First of all, for example, on virtual models. Thanks to Formula One and Formula One cars are like laboratories. They have hundreds of channels and information coming from telemetry. And this is very useful for us to develop virtual models. And so when you have a virtual model, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Just
hello? Can you hear me?
Froze, but I could hear you.
No, okay, it was okay, perfect. No, I was saying that talking about virtual models, we have been able to develop a virtual tire that we supply to the teams. The teams use our virtual tires in their simulators or simulations in general. And thanks to their feedback, we can make our predictive models more and more accurate. And when you have the model available, you can use it for motorsport tires, Formula One tires, or road car tires. So virtual models, production processes, quality controls, indoor testing, able to replicate the stress on track, materials. They are all areas in which we can develop technology, and this technology is available for road tire. And we develop technology in the highest stressful environment, I believe, because Formula One tires are working with very high forces acting on them, accelerations, heat, so the temperature is quite high, and we have the possibility to develop a lot of technology. Then you have the tread compound. The tread compound obviously is different. We are not using the tread compound of Formula One tires on road car tires because those compounds are designed to work at 100 degrees. When you drive on the street, on the road, you don't have a tire that is at 100 degrees for sure. So it's a different approach, but this doesn't mean that because of that Formula One is useless. And next year with 18 inches tire is even more relevant because we have also the size that is very close to a road tire.
Yeah, could you maybe explain some more in what sense the 18 inches differ from the 13 inches?
You know, it's a matter of shape. So the 13 inches are tires with a very high sidewall. The sidewall is now part also of the suspension of the cars, is used as a part of the suspension. While with 18 inches tires, we have a profile and a shape of the tire that is a lot closer to a road tire. we use 18 inches, 19 inches, 20 inches are the most popular sizes on road cars. And that's why I'm saying that moving from 13 inches tire to 18 inches tire, everything is much closer to our road tire production.
And how do you how far are you in your development in 18 inches? Like, yeah, like we said, you have the one in Formula 2. You are testing in Formula 1 as well after race weekends, although you didn't.
Oh, yeah, we have some sessions that have been agreed with the teams. Some of them are just after the race, Tuesday, Wednesday after the race. Some other sessions are dedicated to tire testing. The plan is that in September we are going to homologate the construction, and after a couple of months we also define the compounds. So by the end of the year we have the new product available, and we will start to use the new tire in Abu Dhabi. After the race, there is a collective test of 2 days with all Formula 1 teams running for the first time the 18 inches tire.
Yeah, because if the new regulation wasn't postponed, 18 inches would already have been used this year, right?
Correct. Yeah. But then due to the situation with COVID, the lockdown and everything, it was decided to postpone by 1 year the introduction. So it's now 2022.
So you are confident for the 18 inches?
Absolutely. No, we are a good step. So I'm confident that we start the new season with 18 inches.
And for normal spectators, other than the looks, is there any difference in like the pit stops to come or so, or will it be mostly the same, just the tire will look differently?
The tires for sure will look different. For drivers, driving style is slightly different because, as I said, the tires are a lot more reactive. So they are a lot more precise. On some circuits where you have a very high curves, you have to pay a bit of attention not to hit the curve too hard, because the sidewall is much smaller, and so the impact also for the rim, it's important to avoid curve riding that is too aggressive. But in some circuits is not a problem, because when you have curves like the one that are designed for motorbikes, they are quite low. That's not a problem at all. But if I think, for example, at Monza with very high curves, in that case you have to pay a bit more attention.
How is your relations with other drivers?
Relation with the drivers, I have to say that is very, very good.
Do you have like the Pirelli pilots, like Fiat used to be in the past, or you had like one or two pilots?
No. That was in the past, and now we have, depending on the team that we are using for testing, the team is also providing the driver, and the driver is usually the race driver.
Okay. And the last question I would like to ask you, or rather comments, do you have any advice or advices or anything you would like to tell people, younger people who are finishing their study right now or looking for a job or anything? Any motivational speeches?
But I believe that we spoke about that at the beginning of our conversation. So no other advices. As I said, I hope that young people are getting passionate about motorsport. Now also with the e-games and the possibility to train at home, I believe there is the opportunity to also to race in a virtual mode. There are also a lot of interesting programs that are showing the backstage of what happened in the paddock. So if we have young people that are willing to enter into this world, consider that is demanding. You have to work hard, Is not a holiday, because some people think that because we are traveling around the world, we are a sort of permanent holiday. It's not like that. Actually, I visited many countries, but if you ask me if I had time to visit cities or places, it's not like that. We fly to the event, we have to go on track, stay on track, but it's nice because I like my job. So at the end of the day, it is what I want to do.
Okay.